girls, to another installment of the West Wing podcast, Beneath the Black, Teal, and Gold. We're going to be doing something a little bit different today. This is a bonus episode in addition to the one that we release every other Friday, because we just felt like, we would not capitalize, but just take advantage of this opportunity to talk about something a little bit more lighthearted, because if you listen to our last episode, and just recently, a couple of us watched the new live-action Mulan movie, and we're going to be sharing our thoughts, criticisms, praises, I guess, today with you guys. So, if you guys don't know me, my name is Mia Montillano. I am your ASB President, and I'm a senior. And my favorite Disney animated movie would probably be Hercules, because I love the music and how they turn gospel, or they turn like Greek mythology into gospel music. That was genius. And also my favorite Disney Channel original movie, the DComs, would probably have to be Lemonade Mouth, because it was definitely ahead of its time, and She's So Gone is a bop. So we're gonna go around the table and introduce ourselves, our names, our commissionerships, and our favorite DCom and animated movies.
Okay. Hey guys, I'm Brandon. I am a senior. I'm in the commissionership of Publicity, Art and Publicity. And my favorite animated Disney movie, I think mine is Mulan. There's always a few. It's always depending on what I'm feeling at the time, but overall, I think Mulan is just such an amazing movie. The animated one, obviously. But yeah, for DCOM movies, I think Lizzie McGuire counted, right? That counts. I hope that counts. I don't know. But yeah, I like Lizzie McGuire a lot. So yeah.
Alright. Hello, I'm Dean. I'm in tech. And I'm gonna have to agree with Brandon here. I love Mulan. I think that's the one that I can probably watch over and over again. And then my favorite live action would probably be Holes.
Oh, okay, LOL. Hi, my name's Gillian. I'm a junior and I'm in the Tech Commissionership. And I would say my favorite animated Disney movie is probably Big Hero 6. It's very heartwarming. Maybe not the part where Tadashi died, but it's still one of my favorite movies. I have sorry. But yeah, I really like Big Hero 6. And then my favorite DCOM is probably Lemonade Mouth as well, because I definitely agree with what Mia said, and I really like how they sort of touched on topics that don't really get talked about in at least Disney movies. So I think they did a great job with that movie. So yeah.
Okay, hi, my name is Miku. My favorite Disney movie animated is probably Lilo and Stitch, and my favorite Disney Channel original movie is probably Camp Rock, because I don't know, it's too iconic, and yeah.
Okay, thank you guys for introducing yourselves. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention Brandon and Miku are special ASB guests of this podcast per se, because they're not consistent members of the TWW team, but we are super happy to have them here today, and hopefully they'll be joining us for future episodes. So let's just get into it. We're gonna start off with a little spoiler-free review on just how we thought of the live-action movie in general. And I think, Dean, you mentioned that you watched the movie with your mom, who's never seen the original animated movie. So if you wanted to share a little bit about, that unbiased perspective going into this movie with zero expectations whatsoever.
Okay, yeah. Well, I watched it for the first time with all of you guys in the ASB, and my perception of it was very I have a lot of nostalgia for it. I grew up with it, and so when my mom came into it, it was interesting seeing how she liked the film. She knew that there was something missing, but she also she also noticed the offbeats where there initially was music in the original. She noticed how like it almost stagnated a bit, and like it's crazy to see how even though like we know something's missing, it's easy to see that there still is something missing, even if you don't really have any prior knowledge or nostalgia for the film.
How did she feel if you know about just like, I guess just like the character development in general, like the acting, the cinematography, just all of the elements of it?
Yeah, so I'm probably the only real film buff in my family. But like my sister and my mom both, my sister is really interested in Disney. She loves Disney, like everything. And she actually really likes the film. She has nostalgia for Mulan, yeah, but like she also really, she knew that it didn't hold a candle to the original, but she also really loved it. And my mom, she generally just thought that it was pretty good. I guess like if you're not really looking out for character development or anything, you're not really like critiquing it through a nostalgic lens or whatever, like you're kind of just watching it for pure enjoyment, you can definitely find that enjoyment. So in a sense it was still pretty entertaining.
I think like because I first watched it with like my full family, and they're very like the types of people to like watch things for enjoyment and like not really get super analytical about it, and like I kind of just adapted to that kind of atmosphere, and I just watched it for the enjoyment. And I definitely agree, you know, it's a good like adrenaline packed film, and it was very in character of Disney. Like you could tell that it was a Disney film. It felt very like magical and very, you know, dramatized, and the shots were really cinematic, and you know, you could tell that they're like trying to you know, show off like all their new technologies and stuff like that. So it was enjoyable in that sense. So I don't know if like any of the other speakers here have any input, like unbiased input, before we dive into the spoilers, I guess you could say, because there's a ton of those.
For me, like I was like interested in this movie, but at the same time I was like not, because Mulan was one of my favorite like childhood movies, but like I didn't get the chance to watch the new one that just came out. So yeah.
I think my parents, like, they really seem to enjoy it. Like I remember commenting, okay, this is a bit biased, but I was like, it's kind of missing like the authenticity of like the animated one, but my parents said that they thought it was like very well executed in terms of like the cinematography and sort of all the shots that they got, and I could agree with them on that. So yeah.
For me, I also, like, for the first time I watched it with my parents, and I like I wanted to see like what their reaction was, and especially Mulan being our family's like favorite Disney movie, like of all time. Like we would watch it like on road trips everywhere we went. Like that movie, I grew up with it like so much, and I don't know, it was just, it's good if you haven't seen the animated version. Like it's more of its own thing than it should be compared to the animated. That's how I feel.
Okay.
Sorry.
So go
Yeah.
ahead.
So from my perspective, since Mulan, as I said before, is my favorite Disney film, it was really sort of difficult to really look at it in any other context than that. But since I'm like pretty big on filmmaking, I always sort of look through new movies with this sort of lens all the time of just analytical. And throughout, I kind of like, I picked up on like the subtle things where they were trying to fix things that they did in the original, or not fix, but try to stray away from what they did initially. And I saw that like a lot of what they were trying to do, it sort of tried to make it a bit more realistic, in a sense. And I guess that makes sense. Because the director was actually she also directed some other Disney movies like McFarlane USA, and she's known to be a very realistic director, so they probably brought her on to try to bring that sort of realistic element to Mulan. But in a way, it really faltered on the fact that it was trying to be something that it couldn't be. And they were trying to pull it in a lot of directions. So they had to only stick to one direction, and it kind of fell apart there.
100%. Yeah, that was going to bring me to like my next question. Like, I feel like a lot of our perspectives are really informed by, you know, like our attachment to like the original movie. But I know like Disney has faced a lot of criticism with like their past live action remakes. Like a lot of like hardcore Disney fans are like, oh, we don't want like a shot by shot remake of, you know, just the animated film. So I respect them for trying to, you know, like test the boundaries of what they can do with like a live action movie. And while their intentions were good in order to like be more historically accurate to like the Ballad of Mulan and stuff like that, I feel like it felt really shoddily like researched. And you know, like I feel like Dean said, that every new like step they tried to take, like they took 2 steps back, and it kind of like backfired on them. So I think that takes us into our spoiler portion of this podcast episode. So the first point that I kind of wanted to bring up was the whole like the Chi subplot, because if you haven't watched the movie, basically what happens is like from a very young girl, Mulan is introduced as this like this heroine that was born with this innate power that a lot of Asian cultures, especially like Chinese culture, refers to as Chi. It's like this uniting life force. And she has a special ability to like channel that in very supernatural ways. And personally, I didn't like that because it completely like erodes the humanity and like the grit that gave the original Mulan character so much charm and like relatability, especially like as like an Asian, you know, little girl. So yeah, I wanted to hear you guys' perspective on, you know, what they did with that kind of plotline.
Again, I think when you're looking at the live action Mulan and comparing it to, again, like the animated one, I think it's sort of just like another sort of plot element that was sort of just added in there to make up for like a bunch of things they didn't include, which I'm sure we'll get to later. And so while I feel like it was nice that they like kind of included that, I don't know, I just feel like it wasn't very necessary and it wasn't authentic to the original.
Okay. So yeah, I really feel like the whole idea of Chi, props to them for trying to be a little bit more authentic and like, you know, informed by Chinese culture, but it really felt very Panda Express, for like a lack of a better word. It just felt like it felt like at their pitch meeting, like they just had all of their like directors like literally just Google like Chinese culture or like Chinese spirituality, and they're like, oh my god, Chi is like a really cool thing. It sounds very like warrior-esque, and it sounds like something that, you know, Mulan would have. Let's just add that in there, you know, like we're not gonna understand how it works or like its cultural significance whatsoever. Let's just add that in there and like, you know, turn it into this like magical thing, and just like make Mulan like a completely inaccessible character, even though, you know, she's supposed to be like an icon of resilience, and you know, like she was kind of like a rags to riches story, I guess you could say, and she was really she was like a random girl, honestly, and she like, you know, she had a lot of humility, and she had to actually work to get to where she wanted to be. But with the whole Chi like plot, it really felt like it sends the wrong message, I think, especially to the younger demographic that they wanted to target, that it's like, you're only a worthy warrior, you're only a worthy person if you are the chosen one. Like, it felt like another Rey, and it felt like another, you know, just a typical Disney character. So I felt like that really made Mulan's character a lot emptier than the original film. But that, yeah.
Yeah, going more into that sort of culture clash, I feel like because like for those of you who took AP World, back in that time, a widely practiced like religion at the time was Zen Buddhism, and that's where Chi derives from, and that's like an offshoot of regular Buddhism. So the idea of Zen Buddhism is a lot more spiritual than traditional Buddhism, but the idea generally is that Chi is something that it's an impersonal, not deity, but just sort of force that like lives in all of us and binds everything together. Basically the Force, before the Force was a thing. But it sort of like really shows that they were really trying to add this sort of supernatural element into Mulan, but it the weird thing is that like she shouldn't be like something that gives you acrobatic powers at age 9. It's something that like you have to really learn how to sort of channel into yourself to sort of better your mindset as opposed to your physical strength. And that sort of leads me into the other big like issue with the film, which is the fact that they can't really do anything too like, I guess, unrealistic. They have this weird like standard for realism in Mulan, and I guess adding ancestors wasn't really like yeah, they just didn't really include them. They sort of added this phoenix that that just flies around and guides her per se. And although like that was supposed to be like the replacement for Mushu, the real replacement for Mushu was the witch. So the witch is sort of this character that just sort of is this antithesis to Mulan. Basically like what Mulan could be if she strays off the sort of heroic path. And the idea behind it was that the witch is basically the same thing as Mulan, but just evil. So they have to sort of drive each other's character development. So, in a way, that makes her serve as the replacement to Mushu, as opposed to the Phoenix. Basically, Mushu's purpose, thematically, in the initial film, was that he was supposed to serve as an outlet for her to sort of rant and explain her internal conflicts, and also to sort of support each other, because they both had to prove themselves to a certain group. Yeah, exactly. And the witch sort of had the same sort of thing, but they didn't have any real interactions with each other. So the one time that they really interacted was when they had their first battle, and then Mulan suddenly realizes something within her. And although they did show it before, they showed her internal conflict of her not really being able to embrace her true self. It wasn't pointed out to the audience obviously enough. I don't want to say obvious, because obviously you don't want to show something really, like, literally tell the audience, but that was literally what the music is for. That's literally why she had to talk to Mushu to begin with. So if they had more interactions with her and the witch, more back and forths, maybe like she throughout the film tried to recruit her, or just had like talked to her like without her knowing that she was actually the witch, then that would have served a much better purpose in the story thematically.
I feel like this is a perfect movie to show to like a 7th grade English class and have them like practice, you know, like those plot pyramids.
Oh
It's
my.
it's spelled out so much that it's like, okay, this is the exposition. Wow, Mulan has chi, and this is a rising action. And
The
oh my god,
climax.
the climax is where she has this battle. She has this battle and she realizes something within herself. Like it just feels, I don't know. The whole thing just feels so shallow. Yeah.
Okay. So I heard like the mute. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so as for the music, I heard that like they don't have like music in the thing, but like I was really interested. Like even though I didn't watch the movie, I was really interested in like the soundtrack because I heard Christina Aguilera was doing like she was redoing her cover of like Reflection, and so Reflection is like one of my favorite Disney songs, and so like if you compare like the two versions of like her covers, like you can really tell that like the newer one she just did is so much more mature than like the one she did when she was like really young, and I really like the contrast of the two. But yeah, that's it.
Wow. Yeah, to add on, like, for the original movie, I feel like it was just so, like, packed with music, and, like, the music made the movie, like, memorable for, like, so many people. And the fact that Disney fans had to fight, like, the director and the producers for music in the film, only to get an instrumental of Reflection, it was just a mess, honestly, truly. Like, the fact that it was just an instrumental of Reflection, like, I appreciated that it was at a different point than where Reflection was in the original movie, and they just put the instrumental at, like, kind of a climax point where she, like, lets down her hair and she's, like, riding into battle. And yeah, I thought that was really cool. It really, I'm gonna be honest, it made me cry, like, first watch. But thinking about it now, like, people signed petitions, they really went ham for music. Like, if I remember correctly, people really wanted music for Mulan. Like, Beauty and the Beast had music, Cinderella had music. So, like, the fact that Mulan wasn't gonna have music, I feel if I watched this movie without music, I would be way more disappointed than I was at the end of my second watch. But yeah. And also, actually, I don't know. I don't know what else I was gonna add.
I think the music in just most movies, and of course mainly Disney movies, it's what really moves the plot along. Because, you know, like, for example, like, you're at karaoke night, you don't know what to sing, just like put on some Disney songs and everyone's singing. And so to not have, like, you know, the classic songs in the movie was just really disappointing. And like the scenes, like, they were well executed for like the live action, but it's just without that music, it doesn't have that pizzazz or spice. Like, for example, when Mulan was like getting ready to go meet the matchmaker, all we got was like that little instrumental of the song, and I was like, and we didn't even get the montage of her, like, you know, in the bathtub and like
And,
I like that.
yeah.
I don't know. That was like very quirky and funny.
And to add,
and so, go ahead.
for like, especially I'll Make a Man Out of You, like the training scene felt so empty.
Oh yeah.
So
God.
empty. Like, it was just them going,
girl.
ha, ha, and then doing flips, and then her like battling that one dude as her love interest, low key. And it was just empty. And then like we got an homage to it, like they were like saying the lyrics. Or no, not for I'll Make a Man Out of You. It was the one where they're going.
The one where they're talking about the girls.
Yeah, the one where they're talking about the girls. I forgot the name of the title.
even
I forgot
that
the title
song.
or the title of the song, but
A girl worth fighting.
A Girl Worth Fighting For,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh my god. Okay.
That's what it was. But it just felt like empty, and it was cute for the people that watched the original, for them to like put those lyrics as like lines in the movie, but disappointment. Really.
Yeah.
I know. Oh my god, I was waiting for someone to bring up the training scene, because I feel like even like the decision that they made to like replace, you know, the whole scene of her like trying to climb up that
tower.
one pole with like the tower, and she was carrying like the weights that said like, what was it, like honesty and like loyalty or something like that. Like that in itself is such.
I think it was
honor?
brave.
Exactly what it said.
I think it was bravery and strength.
Oh yeah.
One of them was
Yeah.
strength. I know it was but I'm not sure about bravery.
Oh, okay.
Look,
Oh, I don't know. That's the way that I mention it, but I still feel like that image alone is just so powerful because it's showing how like, you know, she was like physically and mentally weak to the point where she couldn't tap into those parts of herself, like bravery and strength. But you know, as time went on, as she like persisted, you know, she was able to make it to the literal top and outdo everybody. And like in the live action, there's like barely any footage of her just like, you know, doing the work and like training on her own, and she just like automatically just goes up the mountain. She just does it. Like she just like carries the buckets all the way up to the top, and it's like, all right, like where did this ability come from? And it's like, yeah, and it's like, oh, okay, so she tapped into her chi. Wow.
it wasn't like, it didn't, like, you know, like in the song, it was like they started the bottom. There's like that slope oh my gosh, that incline. It builds up to that moment where she's going up with the medals and stuff, and like they didn't really have that moment, and so it was in the live action, it was more like boom boom,
And
like
sorry.
oh, go ahead.
Coming back to like where the music plays in, what is the term for the bridge, like the bridge of the song "I'll Make a Man Out of You." It shows where like the turning point of everything, and it like everybody's starting to like train better, and Mulan's like figuring out everything, like finding like her personal like strength, and like I don't know what else.
Oh, and then like another scene, it's not really it's not like part of the soundtrack, but it is a memorable part of the score. I think the one scene like in the very beginning, sorry, we're like jumping across like everywhere right now, but like the scene where she like makes a decision to like cut her hair and like put the armor on, and she's like crying in the rain, and there's like this super like epic and like intense drumming, and like she goes to like pay respects to her ancestors. I feel like that was such a critical point in the movie that they could have definitely, you know,
Included.
like used to move the plot forward, and also show her like internal conflict, because it feels like, because in the live action it just cuts to her like with the armor on, and it's like, and then the family's like, oh no, Mulan is gone, and then that's it, you know. But it's like, it doesn't show like the impact that it has on her family, the impact, like the significance that it has, that she's like defying these Confucian ideals of like knowing your place, and also like the very very explicit generals in the society. Like it's just like, okay, like it just I just feel like I'm like at a loss for words. It's just very much okay, like, okay, we're just moving on.
Yeah, I found
But,
that
yeah.
really interesting how the animated movie appeared to do so much more, even though it's like an hour and a half compared to 2 hours for the live action. So I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of that time they dedicated to having like more screen time for the Rorans and the witch, which honestly it sort of makes sense when you think about that, but it's weird how they use the time in that one. I feel like they devoted more time to action as opposed to the actual development.
Definitely.
I can agree.
But it's weird how like even there's even more subplots in the original than in this one. Like there's a subplot with Mushu and how his conflict with the ancestors, and then that sort of like parallels with Mulan's, and then they were able to focus more on like the matchmaker, as you guys said before, and that really serves as a testament to how different the format was for this version of the film. The music was very integral, and that really like carried the story along in such a small amount of time. Like that's why like when they sing "I'll Make a Man Out of You," they can sort of have this montage without really focusing on specific parts, and sort of develops, has its own sort of like subplot in of itself, and they also like took out the part where like she wasn't fit for service and was actually kicked out of the army. So that served as like a pivotal moment in the original for her to really like try to find a different way of trying to really outsmart or really try to make some sort of difference in her way of training or like in her mindset in general. And yeah, that's just missing. But it's weird to me how they were able to do it in something like Cinderella, where they stripped away all the music and they changed although yeah, they kept the story relatively the same, they added some parts at the end that actually like made the story a lot more, I guess, conflicting. They added like elements to it where it just sort of added to the conflict within Cinderella and her mother. And I don't know exactly how to explain it, but essentially in the original, like the mother finds out that she's Cinderella like when they put on the glass slipper, but in the new one she actually finds out sooner and makes a deal with one of the second in commands at the castle to try to ensure that she still gets power even if Cinderella doesn't put on that slipper. Like she gives Cinderella an ultimatum that if she becomes the queen, then she has to like have her in as her mother. So it sort of makes little sense to me that they weren't able to do that here. I get that they were trying to be more realistic and try to also like stay true to the people who were sort of nostalgia driven, but I think the real failing is that they were focusing on the nostalgia at all. With Cinderella and the Jungle Book, I think they were able to get away with it because no one really had within the target demographic had like a childhood like nostalgia for it, and so they were able to retell it without really worrying about the consequences.
That's right. Yeah, because you forget that like Cinderella was way before Mulan, but I feel like, you know, millennials and Gen Z very much grew up with Mulan since it was like I guess it's because first of all it's like it's Asian representation, and also because it's like it was produced much further along. But like that was a really good point that you brought up about like their use of screen time, because I feel like it just the film feels very Western and it feels very like comic booky, or like, you know, like very super, it feels like more of a superhero story. Like at some points I feel like you would forget that you're watching Mulan, because it's very much like it feels like it's a war film, like because they spend a lot of their time like trying to develop like, you know, the Roran subplot and like focusing on, you know, like their conquest, and then they also spend a lot of the time like just doing a lot of really cool battle shots and stuff like that, but they never really focus on you know, those like conflicting elements that you're looking for, like how they did it in Cinderella. And it's, what am I trying to say? It just feels like, I feel like the difference between like Western fighting films and like you know, like actual like Chinese produced fighting films, like the ones like Eastern fighting films, they focus more on like, you know, like the actual spirituality and like the kind of effort that it takes in order to develop like these skills. It's not really just like some inherent thing that they have, and it's really like they do mention like ideas like energy and chakra and chi and stuff like that, but it's not so much in a way that it's like something that needs to be tapped into, or it's like a superpower. but it's more just like oneness with yourself and oneness like with your surroundings that allow you to fight in these like more effective ways. But I just think like those misunderstandings of just so much of it, just this, like the misunderstandings of like the cultural aspects of it really influence the way that they tried to tell the story, which kind of like threw off the balance between, you know, like internal conflict and just the overall external conflict between, you know, the Rorons and the, what is it called, the Imperial Army?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
So on to the positives of the movie. What did you guys like about it, or what did you guys think was like really good that they did in the live action?
Personally, although I felt like the cinematography was off for the kind of like fighting style they were trying to portray, I guess like that sort of stems from my biases of watching other Chinese films and how they approach this kind of action. The action scenes were still done fairly well. I think the choreography was definitely like top tier, and I think that they also really benefited from having such a large budget. They were able to make the visuals really stunning. Although I hated the fact that they replaced the pole scene with like the mountain. I think that really like was able to portray the struggle like a lot more effectively than just her having to climb up a pole. Just seeing like the mountains and stuff in the background, it was really like both visually like stunning and also really encapsulates how difficult the challenge was. And yeah, I appreciate them for trying.
Yeah, I would like I'd give this movie a participation award.
Please.
Like I've been saying it like throughout this whole thing, you know, like I commend them for trying to do something different, and it's definitely a nice thing to watch, like if you're just looking for a quick little pick-me-up and you're looking to watch for like an action film. But if it did falter in terms of like historical and cultural accuracy, but it's Disney. I can't really expect much from them, but I do expect more from them if they want to make meaningful steps towards diversity. But I also really loved Mulan's love interest, Chen, which we didn't talk about.
We didn't talk about a lot of
Super
things.
cute.
But yeah.
Loved him, and I loved that they used him to like subtly hint at how you know, Mulan was trying to defy gender roles, you know, and like there were other warriors that were perceptive of that too. I like that that touch. He was bi-curious. I like that.
I like that a lot. I actually really like that a lot.
There was another thing I completely forgot, but I did enjoy the cinematography. It was very stunning, like Dean said.
Yeah, I will say, Chen, woo, Chen, bruh, they casted him well. I will say, but yeah, I liked. Oh, I actually first watch. I like watching it without tying anything like to the original Mulan, because I haven't seen it like, or prior to that watch, I haven't seen the original Mulan in like so long. So I was just watching it for what was given to me and like for what the movie was. It was really good. I liked the like what you guys said. The cinematography was really good. Choreography amazing, and like yeah, I just really liked it upon first watch. But second watch, not so much.
So I also like that they didn't really force the love story between them. To be fair, like they kind of didn't do that in the original too, but they could have easily tried to add that in as a subplot. But yeah, it's yeah.
I also will say that like even though I was bashing this movie for not having enough music or like not delivering it, the like instrumental for Mulan or for Reflection was like superior. I loved the instrumentation, the orchestra or the orchestra that was behind it. It was really beautiful, and the part that it was placed at, I loved it. So yeah, made me cry. So that's great.
I think one aspect that I equally like. Okay, I know we're supposed to be talking about positives. Like, what I equally liked and disliked was the types of symbols they used throughout the movie. I think, of course, the main ones being the phoenix and the witch, because I guess that was an interesting take on Mulan's character development, although, like I've been saying throughout the entire podcast, it wasn't really authentic. I think it was still kind of interesting, I guess. And I guess considering, I don't know, the modern... Oh, Brennan. I guess, like, the modern times, I guess it was, like, as kind of cool how they used it, I guess. I guess other, like, sort of symbols that were, I think, nice that they added were, like, the sword and how at the end they added that extra sort of, what is it, moral, or I forgot the term for it, like that sort of value on the sword. What else was there? Oh my gosh, I'm kind of blanking out. But yeah, I think the symbolism was pretty good. And like Mia said, like this movie does deserve a participation award. And like, again, if you're watching this without like, you know, any expectations, then like I think it's good and it's very enjoyable. And so like if you're planning on like watching this, like if you want to, I don't know, feel like it's worth it, just try not to expect too much from it. I mean, it's still
Turn your
good,
brain
but
off.
don't expect too much. Yeah,
Turn your
watch it
brain
like you're
off.
a 2-year-old.
No thoughts.
I agree. though. I agree.
Just Mulan.
What I liked about this movie, even though I didn't watch it, was obviously Christina Aguilera.
Please,
She
girl.
served with that music video for her Reflection cover, and I honestly think that was one of the best things that came out of this movie.
Period.
So I think that's a good place to end off. So thank you guys all for tuning in. Wherever you're tuning in from, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever. Be sure to follow us on our social media at OHS West Wing on Instagram and Olympian ASB on YouTube to receive updates and whenever we release a new episode. Go to our link tree if you would like to apply to become a guest speaker or to submit a topic. And yeah, I'm going to turn it over to Mia.
Yes, thank you guys for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this a little bit more lighthearted, even though we kind of dragged the movie. A little more lighthearted bonus episode. Please tune in to our next episode, in which we'll be featuring another student guest speaker and possibly a surprise teacher guest speaker as we tackle the topic of whether an optimistic and passionate outlook on life is better than a more realistic and settling side, or even pessimistic. So if that intrigues you, we'll see you in the next 2 weeks.
All right.
Bye-bye.